I want to tell you about something that's happening inside your body right now. Something most doctors never explain and almost nobody talks about at breakfast. Your arteries have an inner lining, a single layer of cells thinner than a strand of hair. It's called the endothelium. And this lining, this quiet, invisible tissue, is one of the most powerful forces controlling your blood pressure, your circulation, and honestly, how long your heart keeps working the way it should. Here's the thing. When this lining is healthy, your arteries are flexible. They expand when your heart pumps, they relax between beats. Blood flows through them the way water moves through a garden hose that's soft and pliable. No strain, no resistance. But when this lining gets damaged from stress, from sugar, from years of not enough sleep, the arteries start to stiffen. They lose their give. They become more like a plastic pipe than a rubber hose. And every time your heart pumps, it has to push harder. Your blood pressure rises. Your heart works overtime. And all of that happens silently over years with no symptoms until one day it isn't silent anymore. I spoke with a cardiologist about this, and I asked her one question. If someone could only change one thing about their morning routine to protect their arteries, what would it be? She didn't hesitate. She said, give your endothelium what it needs to produce nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide, you may have heard that phrase before. Supplement companies love it, gym culture loves it, but most people have no real idea what it actually does. Here's the simple version. Nitric oxide is a tiny molecule your endothelial cells produce, and when they produce it, it tells the muscles surrounding your artery walls to relax. The vessel widens, blood flows more easily, pressure drops, your heart doesn't have to strain. Think of it as the body's own built-in pressure relief valve. And here's where it gets interesting. The raw material your body uses to make nitric oxide, one of the main building blocks, comes from something called dietary nitrates, natural compounds found in certain vegetables, not from a pill, not from a powder, from actual food. And the single richest source of dietary nitrates in the entire vegetable kingdom is something you can find in any grocery store for almost nothing: beets. I know, you might be thinking, beets? Really? Stay with me because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. When you eat beets or drink beet juice, the natural nitrates they contain go through a conversion process. Bacteria in your mouth and enzymes in your stomach transform those nitrates into nitric oxide. It reaches your bloodstream, it signals your artery walls, and within hours, measurable changes start happening in your vascular system. There are clinical trials on this, real peer-reviewed research published in serious cardiology journals. They found that after people consumed beet juice, their systolic blood pressure, the top number on your reading, dropped by meaningful amounts. In some studies, by as much as 4 to 8 points within just a few hours. That might not sound dramatic, but in the world of blood pressure management, that kind of shift is significant, enough to move someone from a concerning range into a safer one. And unlike a medication, there are no side effects, no interactions to worry about, no pharmacy required. But here's what the cardiologist told me that I didn't expect. She said beets aren't even the only strategy, they're just the most concentrated source. The real principle, the mechanism, is much broader. Dark leafy greens, arugula, spinach, Swiss chard, celery, all of these contain dietary nitrates too, not quite at beet levels, but significant. And when you pair these foods with something acidic, like a squeeze of lemon or a little vinegar, it actually enhances the conversion process. The nitric oxide production becomes more efficient. So a simple salad with leafy greens, dressed with lemon, eaten in the morning or at lunch, is doing something pharmacologically real inside your arteries. You're not just eating healthy food, you're delivering a specific signal to a specific layer of cells that controls the mechanical properties of your cardiovascular system. That's not a metaphor, that's the biochemistry. Now, I want to address something because I think it's important. A lot of people in their 60s and 70s have already been told they have high blood pressure, they're on medication, and they hear something like this and wonder, is this relevant to me? Does this still matter? The cardiologist I spoke with was very clear on this point. Medication manages the numbers, but it doesn't necessarily address the underlying health of the endothelium itself. You can have controlled blood pressure on a drug and still have a compromised, stiff, inflamed arterial lining. The goal, her goal with her patients, is not just to control the pressure, it's to protect the tissue, to keep the lining functional, to preserve the flexibility of the vessels themselves. And that's where food comes in, not instead of your medication, alongside it, as a daily investment in the actual structural health of your arteries. She told me she has patients in their late 70s who have better arterial flexibility scores than people 20 years younger. And when she asks them what they eat, the pattern is remarkably consistent. Vegetables, leafy greens, olive oil, minimal processed food. Not perfect diets, not restrictive diets, just diets built around real ingredients. Here's the other piece of this that most people miss entirely. The endothelium doesn't just respond to what you eat, it responds to what you don't eat. Processed food, especially food high in refined sugar and trans fats, directly damage endothelial cells. It triggers inflammation inside the vessel wall. It disrupts the cell's ability to produce nitric oxide. So the picture is bidirectional. You're not just adding good things, you're also reducing the damage. Every meal where you choose a real vegetable over a packaged product is a meal where your arterial lining gets a chance to function the way it was designed. The cardiologist used a phrase I want you to remember. She said, the endothelium is not a passive structure, it is an active organ. It responds, it adapts, it heals, but only if you give it the materials to do so. That word stuck with me, active. Your arterial lining is not just sitting there, it is constantly responding to signals from your blood, and you are sending those signals 3 times a day, every single day. So here's what this looks like in practice. It doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be expensive. A glass of beet juice in the morning, even a small one, 4 to 6 ounces, is a meaningful dose of dietary nitrates. You can find it in most grocery stores. You can juice fresh beets at home if you prefer. Or if beet juice isn't appealing, a handful of arugula on your eggs, spinach blended into a smoothie, a simple salad with dark leafy greens as your first meal. These are all real, documented ways to give your endothelium what it needs. The pattern matters more than perfection. One great morning meal won't transform your arteries overnight, but a consistent habit, done week after week, month after month, will make a measurable difference in how your vascular system ages. The cardiologist told me something at the end of our conversation that I think about often. She said most of her patients who end up with serious cardiovascular problems didn't have bad luck. They had years of small daily decisions that added up. And the same is true in reverse. The people who stay healthy into their 80s and 90s, they didn't do anything magical. They just made slightly better choices consistently for a long time. That's the power of understanding what the endothelium actually needs. Not a supplement, not a protocol, just breakfast. If this gave you a new way of thinking about your heart health, and I hope it did, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who could use this information. And subscribe if you haven't yet. Every episode on this channel goes deep into one specific part of the body and gives you something real and practical you can do today. No fluff, no fear, just science explained clearly for people who want to take care of themselves. I'll see you in the next one.